All right, Shalom. This is her one by Yasha Allah of the Lions Den Camp. I want to say Kal Halayim, Lay Hawa, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Harakah Kwadash, Ma'amath. Double honor to the elder apostles of GMS and the elders. Shalom to you, Akim, and Akwatim, and children that believe in sincerity and truth around the four corners of the earth. This is going to be a response to a comment board question from a brother. I think his page is To All Israel 777. His question was, he said, Shalom, I have a question. Does Jeshurun mean upright one? And so he's speaking about Deuteronomy, I think 32 and 15. So let's get into it and elaborate, because I told him Kun, and I want to go into it real quick. All right, this is Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 15. It says, But Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. Thou art waxed fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. All right, then he forsook Yahweh, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. So let's get into this, the understanding of this breakdown. All right, and go into the context. So it says, but Jeshurun waxed fat. Now, Jeshurun is another way, symbolic way of speaking of the nation of Israel. But the word Jeshurun comes from the root word, which goes back to being upright. All right, uprightness, which also ties into righteousness. And that's what Israel was set up to be. All right, this is Jeremiah chapter 21. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed, man. And that's talking about the nation of Israel. We were set up as what? A holy and right seed, set up to be righteous, according to, compared to all the other nations, especially when we came out of Egypt. So the Lord said, what? Yet I had planted thee a noble vine. When we went into our land, the Lord gave us the laws and set us apart from the other nations. A holy and right seed. All right, so he set us up established us as a nation. It says, how then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine, man? Why? Because our nation, that's what it means by wax fat and kicked. You know, even over here in America, in Babylon, once Jake get any type of freedom within this system, or gets any type of money, like they celebrate as if they're in the kingdom already, or they begin to take on the customs of these other nations so they can fit in. You know, they start to worship the other nations' idols, become Masons, just like Esau become Muslim or Moors, just like most of the Africans, the Hamites, you know, and then became Romans, what you call Greeks, pagans, following after Antiochus Epiphanes, the Greeks, following after the Romans. All right, so they fall into that idolatry. So Israel, now it says here, the Lord planted us a noble vine. So he set us up and established us to be an upright nation. This is Deuteronomy 4 and 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahweh my power commanded me, that ye should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. And we went to possess the land of Canaan around the time of 1406. We came out of Egypt in 1446. 40 years later, we ended up around 1406 going in with Joshua and then with Caleb. All right, and once the Lord gave us that land and took over the Amorites, a lot of our people started mingling in with these nations and taking on their customs and idolatry. It says, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation, see, we became a great nation, is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great? See, that's what it means by wax fat. Our nation became a great nation. And this right here, who have Yahweh so nigh unto them, as Yahweh our power is in all things that we call upon him for. And what nation is so great that have statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you this day? All right. So that's what it means. Let's get into it. All right. So we're right here where it says Deuteronomy 32 and 15, Jeshurun, which is a symbolic for Israel, but I'm gonna get into that word in a second because it means upright one. We're gonna get to the root of the word. But it says Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. So Jeshurun became a great nation. You know, thou art waxing fat and thou art grown thick. So it became a strong nation. All right, 12 tribes. They had the Lord with us. And they had that land. All right, and the nations were in fear of us. Thou art covered with fatness. You know, covered meaning what? With wealth. All right, the land of milk and honey. Our people grew rich in that land. Then he forsook Yahweh, which made him. So that's when our people rebelled against the Lord. And lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. So let's go up one verse and it'll get more detailed. Let's go up a few verses real quick. So who's the rock of our salvation? Let's get into that real quick. And then I'm going to jump down to a point. All right, so who's the rock? It says right here, verse 1, give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. My doctrine shall drop as rain, my speech shall distill as the dew. Wow, you know, shall appear as the dew, man, and distill. You know, distilled water, that water that's at the top of the pan once you're boiling something, it's all on the, it's like the purest water. As the small rain upon the tender herb. All right, means it's going to fall upon each grain, meaning each of the elect. All right, each blade of grass. And as the showers upon the grass, meaning all over the world. Because I will publish the name of Yahweh, ascribe ye greatness unto our God, man. So we're supposed to publish the name of Yahweh, make it public. And it says what? He is the rock. His work is perfect. All right. So it says what? So our people lightly esteemed. We go back down to 15. It says, Jeshurun waxed fat and kicked. So they rebelled against Yahweh. Thou art waxing fat, thou art grown thick, thou art covered with fatness. Then he forsook Yahweh, which made him, and lightly esteemed the rock of his salvation. They didn't take the Lord serious anymore. Just like today, the Lord said, one of the main commandments is thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. That means to treat him as his name as unimportant or worthless. So they lightly esteem the Lord, even as they do today. But how do we wax fat and kick? Here we go right here. Let's go up to, let me see. Let's start from verse 8. When the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, right? When he separated the sons of Adam, you know, he set the bounds of the people according to the numbers of the children of Israel. So everything in this life, dealing with these nations and these kingdoms, they all consist according to the bounds of the children of Israel. So if it's meant for us to be in captivity, the Lord gonna raise up these nations. When the Lord putting us up, and forgiving us, he bring these nations down around us. All right. So it says, for Yahweh's portion is his people, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. He found him in a desert land. That's in the land of Egypt. That was a desert land, just like America is a desert, the second Egypt. And in the waste howling wilderness, he led him out. All right, and we were in the wilderness 40 years. He instructed him, he kept him as the apple of his eye. All right, so basically focused on our nation and watched over us. As an eagle stirred above his nest, fluttereth over her young, spreadeth abroad her wings, taketh them, beareth them on her wings. All right, that represents the Lord moving us swiftly out of Egypt and having the chariots, the angels, watch over us. So Yahweh alone did lead them. All right, he sent Yahweh Shai to lead us out. And there was no strange God with him. So there was no idols, none of these false gods, man, that did it. It was the Most High, Yahweh. And he made him ride on the high places of the earth. That means we were ruling over these nations. We took down the Amorites, you know. So he caused us to ride upon the mountains, ride upon the high places, these ruling kings. All right, really the Amorites at that time, the Canaanites, especially with Joshua and Caleb. Where was that? He made him ride on the high places of the earth. So this is everything the Lord did for us, man. Our people still rebelled against the Lord. That he might eat the increase of the fields, and he made him to suck honey out of the rock and oil out of the flint rock, man. So we really had that. We had oil and we had honey in the land of Israel. Butter of kine, see, this is everything he gave us. Milk of sheep, with fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats, and with the fat of kidneys of wheat. And thou didst drink the pure blood of the grape. See, all of that. We had the pure blood of the big giant grapes, man. So much it took 2 men to grab 1 bushel. But Jeshurun waxed fat. See, now let's get to it. Jeshurun would be what? You go to Strong's H 3484, and it says, we're going to the Strong's Hebrew. It says Yeshurun. All right. Now the root word here would be Yashar. Now, not like Yasher Allah, because that's something different. And I'm gonna go into it. So this right here would go to the word upright. That's the root of the word, upright. You see it right here. And adding the one at the end, it would represent upright, one. You know, so it says upright or Yashar. That's the root word. It's one whole word, Yashar. All right, not he prince, but Yashar. Now, all right, so Yashawan goes into the root word Yashar, and then you have Wan at the end. Yashar Wan. All right, Yashar Wana or Yashawan. The connector would be between the W and the N at the end. So now let's get into the next word, the root of the word. All right, this is Deuteronomy 9 and 4. I'm going to start there so we get the context. Speak not thou in thine heart, after that Yahweh thy power have cast them out from before thee, saying, for my righteousness Yahweh have brought me in to possess this land. Right? It wasn't by our righteousness. It would be the Lord's mercy and the Lord's will. All right, according to the will of Yahweh, the Lord blessed Jacob. And I think that goes into Romans, if I'm not mistaken, it's 9 or 11. All right. Now it says here, but for the wickedness of these nations, Yahweh doeth drive them out from before thee. See, it wasn't because of our doing, but it was because the Lord was having mercy on us and building us up as a nation, and because those nations were wicked, he raised us up against them. All right. Now, not for thy righteousness or for the uprightness of thine heart. See, meaning uprightness. Let's get that. And that word would be H3476. Let's go into the Strong's Hebrew. And the root word would be what? Yashar. It means what? Straightness, uprightness, evenness. What is right? What is due? Okay, so that's what it means to be right or have understanding. Doing things correctly. A noble and right seed. Remember that? That's what the Lord planted us as. Now, that word there, it says Yashar. That's the root word. It's one word altogether. All right, so that goes into the root word uprightness. So when you're speaking about an individual, you would say Jeshurun, or the nation, which compared to a woman, the Lord was calling us Jeshurun in our ideal aspect, what we should be, which would be upright compared to the other nations. But we went off and began to rebel against the Lord once our people grew as a nation in riches. Just like today in America, you know, once people started growing and spreading out, they began to grow more in wickedness. That's why the Lord called us wild grapes. All right. This is Isaiah 5:1. Now will I sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. And the vineyard is the nation of Israel. Well-beloved hath a vineyard. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. All right. And he fenced it in and gathered out the stones thereof and planted it with the choicest vine and built a tower in the midst of it, and also made a winepress therein, and he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes, man. So the Lord gave us the laws, statutes, and commandments, brought us out of Egypt, and gave us a bounds of land, the land of Israel, and gave us the Yahweh, his name. All right. But then what? It brought forth wild grapes. Wild grapes means what? Poisonous or toxic. All right? Or immoral or wicked. So it brought forth wild grapes, meaning not meat for the master's use. Growing, what wild grapes do, they grow and absorb the environment of anywhere they grow, anywhere they're at. All right, but the choice grapes, they're taken care of better. You know, they're healthy to eat. But wild grapes you don't want to eat because they'll poison you. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth wild grapes. All right. Now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the heads thereof. So the Lord cast us out of that land. And it shall be eaten up. All right. So it happened again by the what you call the Babylonians, which were Assyrians, and also the Assyrians during the time of 722 BC and also 586 BC under the Assyrian ruler Nebuchadnezzar that ruled Babylon. So that's what Isaiah is speaking about. But it happened also, nothing new under the sun. This would happen during the time of 1406 when we went in under Joshua and Caleb, and then our people became wicked. Brought forth what? Wild grapes. And now go, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the heads thereof, and it shall be eaten up and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste, and it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. And I will also command the clouds that they rain not, no rain upon it. So the Lord brought a drought. For the vineyard of Yahweh of the host is the house of Israel. So that's the vineyard, you know. And that's what it's talking about when it says Jeshurun. It's really talking about Israel. And the men of Judah, his pleasant plant, and he looked for judgment, but behold oppression. For righteousness, meaning rightness, but behold a cry. All right, so let's get to another word for Israel. Right here it says, where is it at? 28. This is Genesis 32 and 28, and this is when Jacob wrestled with the angel, and he was changed to Israel. All right, setting him up for that inheritance to come in the future, to become a son of Yahweh, the prince. All the promises landed upon Jacob. All right, it was passed down from Abraham, given through Isaac, and landed on Jacob. Now it says here, Genesis 32 and 28, and he said, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, which means to supplant. Doesn't mean he was a swindler or a hustler, because that's not what happened. What happened is Jacob will supplant Esau, meaning take his place. All right. And it says, thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel, for as a prince hast thou power with Yahweh and with men, and has prevailed. So now we became what? Princes. What's the prince? Goes back to the root word son, or children, sons of God. We're the original sons of God, but we were cast down and we lost our place. Now we have a chance at becoming princes in a royal sense, right, with the Father, through the Spirit of truth. Now let's get the word Israel, and it will be Yashar Allah, but it's not the same as Yashar. Yashar is a root word. Now right here, it would be Shara. All right, Shara, and also Allah, which would mean God or power. All right, Shara Allah. And then you have Yah, meaning he. So it's a big separation. Yah, this letter here, does look like a comma. And Shara, and then you have Allah. All right, but you cut this Ra off and shorten it, Yashar Allah. Yashara Allah. All right. And that means princely one, or prince power, meaning he is a prince with the powers. All right, he is a prince now with power, as long as we have God on our side. It says he will rule as God. It's not, but it means he prince power. All right. So we're set up as the princes that will have the power someday through Yahweh. Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. All right, so that root word here would be, as you see here, an origin from Shara. So it's different from Yashar. All right, the Yashar is the root word for Jeshurun. Right, let's see if I can click on it. All right, Yashar, which means upright. And if you go to the word uprightness, as I did, you'll see the word Yashar as the root word, meaning uprightness, or with Yashawan, it would be upright one. And that's what we were established to be, the righteous nation on the earth, through the laws, statutes, and commandments. But we fell. All right, so the root word of Yashar Allah would be Shara. All right, then you add a Yah to the beginning of it, it would mean he. And Shara would be prince, and then power. Let's go to Shara real quick. All right, let's click on prince, the word prince. And the word there is, it says Shara. All right, Shara, just like the word Sarah, or Shara. All right. So now, Shara, it says content, have power, contend with, persist, exert oneself, persevere, to persevere, contend with. All right, so the root word of this word prince is Shara. So Yashara Allah. All right, Yashara Allah, or Yashar Allah. Now the root word of Jeshurun, Yashawan, is Yashar, which means upright, uprightness. All right, so hopefully that's edifying for the brother that had the question. All right, Shalom Ak. I have a question. Does Jeshurun mean upright one? And I would say it does. It means uprightness or upright one. And Yashar Allah represents the term prince of God. All right, he is a prince with the power. All right, hey man. With that, I'm gonna say shalom.